Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I thought it would be interesting and educational to touch on the topic of bad sex education and try and re-educate people on some of the myths and just bad information they may have been taught in the past. It's a topic I see over and over again in my comment section of people saying, oh, I didn't know X until now, or I wasn't taught Y in school and this messed me up because, or, so-and-so never taught me this and so I didn't know how to handle X, Y, and Z. It's a genuine big issue, I think, for a lot of people. And it's something I want to talk about for a while. And I was recently inspired by a little thread I saw on Reddit titled, "People who had abstinence-only sex education, what was the most outrageous or untrue thing you were told?" And I figured using some of the comments in this thread might be a great jumping off point to look at some of these incorrect teachings or find out things that were missed out of a lot of sex ed curriculums and kind of correct them, educate people, try and start a real conversation, and try and do something a little bit helpful. Before we start, let's get the cool admin stuff out of the way. One, if you want to see how I created this makeup look, I have a video available on my channel now that you can go and watch. It's there, and we talk about fun stuff like my birthday, which is coming up, and hair curling. You might find it interesting. It was fun to make. Other things are, if you want to go follow me on social media, I have Instagram, which I post on quite a lot. Kyra, my dog, also has Instagram, and I've been streaming on Twitch more and more recently, so you can go follow me over there if you want to. And third and final thing is I have new merch designs available in my store featuring these really cool handwritten words and empowering phrases, and my favorite is the kind of all over one with phrases like be brave and courageous and all this cool stuff, and I feel quite empowered when I wear it, so maybe you will too. But I really like those designs, and I'm really quite proud of them, and they turned out looking way better than I expected to when I first had the idea in mind, so I'm happy with them. And you should see the amount of paper and scribbles I have, trying to get the words written right and how I wanted them in the right size and everything. So we went through a lot of paper that day. It was fun. I say we, it was me. It was just me and Kyra. Anyway, back to the video. The first and really big thing to say in this video series, because this is going to be a series, is that sex is a totally normal part of life, and it's not something to be ashamed about, it's not something to be embarrassed about, and that's what I want to kind of mainly get across with this series, is that any questions you have, any worries you have, any things you might have been taught wrong, it's okay to talk about them and discuss them and figure things out, all perfectly normal. Everyone is going to have different views on sex when it comes to what they want and don't want, what they like and don't like, what they need and don't need, and it's okay to have a different view on that to someone else. What's important is that everyone is informed and safe and having open, honest, really healthy discussions about these kinds of things. It's okay if you don't want to do this kind of sex act and someone else does. It's okay if you want to only have this many partners and this person wants to have this many partners. Those details don't matter. What matters is that everyone is informed on the important bits, and we can have a conversation about what it means to have healthy, safe, fun sex. Regardless of who you are, everyone needs good sex education, and I don't care if you're gay or straight or bi or asexual or promiscuous or saving yourself until marriage. It's important that every single one of you is informed so you yourself can be safe and comfortable, and you can help other people be safe and comfortable in all situations. It's important that you understand these things even if you're not going to be, say, doing a certain sex act yourself, because it's important that you understand other people. It's important if a friend comes to you and wants advice, you can help them through it, and it's important if you see something or you have something happen to you that you know what's happening and you can know, this is okay, this isn't okay, how to stop and that kind of thing. It's important you know what's normal, what's safe, what's consensual and what isn't, does that make sense? Normal is maybe not the best word to use in there, but you know what I mean. And this actually ties in really well with the topic of today's conversation, which was actually one of the first points raised in this Reddit thread. This person said, girls and boys had to go to different rooms during sex ed. The girls were told that abstinence is the best option because sex is painful. The boys weren't told that. And today I want to focus on this idea of, should we be separating sex education for kids and teenagers by sex or gender? Should you have a girls and a boys class? Personally, I think no, but let's have a talk about why. I personally don't really understand the need to separate boys and girls for sex education, because separating by gender means that not everyone gets the same information or advice, and that's not okay. Both need to be educated on the same things. There's nothing one sex needs to know that the other doesn't. And yes, this includes cis heterosexual men needing to understand about periods and the female reproductive system, for example. When men's education on topics like periods are lacking, you end up with awkward situations like I had with my ex, where he was a 25-year-old man. We'd been together for like 2 years at this point, and we were out one day in the middle of London, and I unexpectedly started my period. And I said to him, "Hey, do you mind if we call into Boots so I can buy some pads, please?" And he said, "Don't we have those at home? Can't you just hold it in till we get back?" This is a 25-year-old adult, a responsible human being who thought a woman could just hold in her period until it was convenient, the way you hold in a pee until you can find a toilet. Proper sex education is for everyone, and I will say this over and over and over again. We all need to understand how our bodies and reproductive organs work, even if you have no intention of ever touching, experiencing, or getting close to those reproductive organs. It is a fundamental part of life. One argument I see for separating kids based on gender for sex education might be that, well, certain people might be embarrassed to ask certain questions if the opposite gender is in the classroom with them. Like, one study I read showed that a lot of teenage girls found that they didn't feel as comfortable when there were boys in the class because they didn't feel comfortable asking certain questions, or they were worried the boys would make fun of them, that kind of thing. But for me, I don't think the solution to this is separating the genders. I think it's to allow some kind of system in every classroom where kids can ask frank questions anonymously and without any judgment. I think that's the way forward, not separating by genders, because you're still going to have some people who are intimidated to ask questions no matter who's in the room with them. So that anonymous way of asking questions would probably help bypass that. And honestly, to separate people from getting the same education as others because they might be embarrassed by asking something is, in my opinion, even more harmful and perpetuating a lot of issues, because it implies that there's something to be hidden or kept secret, or something you should be ashamed of saying in front of the opposite sex. And that is such a harmful precedent to set, because we need to be encouraging people to feel comfortable talking openly about these topics in general, whether it's with a potential partner or with friends, or maybe for some other reason, like if they're talking to a medical professional. You don't want people saying, "So this thing happened with my bits and it was a thing and there was something," and then no, you need to make sure people feel comfortable. For example, going to the doctor and saying, "Hey, this happened to my penis," or "Hey, this happened during sex and I need to talk about it." You need to encourage people to be frank and open and not embarrassed by these topics. You need to be able to say to your partner, for example, "I like this, I don't want this, please don't do this, please do this," and not be embarrassed by that. Plus, to separate kids by gender or sex and tell them that they need to learn different things implies that there are different standards or rules for different people, and there isn't, and there shouldn't be. If we keep kids together in the classroom for sex education, it means that they get to hear more other people's views and opinions, perspectives, questions, worries, and I think that's going to kind of make them better educated in the long run, and it's going to make them more empathetic to each other and their future partners. For example, while covering issues like consent, it might be so beneficial for teenagers to hear what concerns and worries their future partners actually have, so when it comes to actually having sex in the future, they genuinely understand the importance of it all. If you take away the taboo from sex and you remove this curtain, and they understand that, their future partners aren't this mysterious figure they have to win over, but actual real people who have feelings and worries and concerns too, it's going to help with educating them on issues like consent, and it's going to make them a little more just empathetic and nice and considerate. It's going to be better all around for everyone. It also means that kids who are non-binary or transgender aren't going to feel left out or out of place. Because, for example, while a transgender man might need to know some things about how the female reproductive system works, they might also need to understand about issues of consent from a male perspective, as just one example. So, do you put them in the girls' class because they have ovaries, or do you put them in the boys' class because chances are they're going to be having more of a typical, male sexual experience, if you want to put it weirdly like that? Where do you put them? This is why it doesn't make sense to separate them. You put them on the girls' or the boys' class only, and they miss out on some important part of their education. Or you're going to undermine and invalidate their identity, which is not okay either. So, and regardless of where you stand on issues like teenagers transitioning or going through hormone therapies or whatever, like, none of that matters. Whether you're okay with that or you're not, it doesn't matter. The fact is, there are going to be plenty of teenagers who are questioning their gender identity and who at that point might be leaning more towards identifying with one gender or another. And it's important that that's not undermined at that age. They're allowed to explore it without any pressure, and they're not told, no, because you have ovaries, you have to be in the girls' class and stuff like that. They still deserve a thorough education. They still deserve a place where they feel in control and a part of things. And it's just not fair to undermine their identity because you think we need to split up girls and boys in a really weird, cis, heteronormative way. You know, we need to stop thinking of things in those terms. And also in this vein, this is why covering things like gender identity and different sexual preferences in the curriculum is so, so important, because it means that these kids who are questioning things but aren't yet ready to come out yet can still get the education they need without feeling compromised or in danger. For example, if you only cover, let's say you only cover issues of transgender men in the boys' classes, but you have a transgender man who hasn't come out yet, and so he's put in the girls' classes, he's not going to get that education he needs. He's not going to get that information that he needs. So that's why it's important to keep everyone together and give everyone the same information and make sure everyone has this safe space where they're being educated without any judgment or different treatment for different people, you know? Yeah, I think there's a lot more to it than that. There's so many more things I could talk about, but this is kind of where I want to end this here. And this is even before we cover the second part of that post about how the girls were told abstinence is the best option because sex is painful. The boys weren't told that. That is a whole other issue that we are going to be covering in the second video in this series. So if you want to see that, please subscribe, hit that notification button, and you will be told when the video comes out, and the rest of the videos in this series and my other videos. But for now, I'd like to pass the question over to you. And do you think we need to be separating sex education by boys and girls, by male and female, by something? Or like me, do you agree that everyone needs to at least be educated on everything? Like I say, leave your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings in the comments below. Let me know your personal experiences with this as well. If you were in classes that were separated or left together, let me know how that impacted you and your education, or let me know how you'd like it done in the future. But for now, thank you for watching. I appreciate you a hell of a lot, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm clapping a lot. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm doing this.